Welcome to the stream. Real quick, I'm opening up the stream chat. Sure, that's all good. Okay. And get my caffeine. Now we're just gonna dive straight in today. So I was talking with Derek, of course, and we got some updates now on Pop Create Idem. Let's look at it. I'm excited to dive right in. So this is what we got over the weekend. So and then copy that in a sec. So what we have now is where we left off on Friday. Is we were looking at this. This is what I got from OpenAPI 3. Is I got a getter, I got a description, parameters, responses, tags, and this is what I wanted to turn it into. What that actually looks like is I guess I need to share my full screen. I got from OpenAPI 3, they have this example JSON blob. This isn't what I was looking at. Pet store, yes. They give us this example code where here we have our metadata about an OpenAPI 3 project, and here they have all of their paths and sometimes other things too, some other schema. So I want to turn this into automatically generated execution modules and tests. And documentation. So what I have so far is I'm getting this, I run my script on the Taco Cloud, which doesn't exist. It's just my fun example for the pets thing. And I'm getting some stuff. I'm able to create this auto-generated function. I've got some docs. I've got an example of how to call this from within code. I've got an example of how to call this from command line with Idem. Should be Idem. Oh, the exec, not Idem cloud. Weird. And then actually making the request. I've got my account plugin, which for account, I've decided, kind of made an executive decision here, that account plugins shouldn't actually open a session. They should have static data. And so when I'm instead of creating an AIO HTTP session, I'm creating an AIO HTTP basic auth object. And then that ends up getting passed to over here in my tool. Oh, I didn't actually finish auto-generating that. Okay, let's look at that in Upgrade. Basic auth session. I'm actually creating a client session with that ctx.account.auth. So whatever your auth looks like, if it's a cookie or whatever it is, however you want to make your plugin, if you want to make it get that auth from a cookie or from a token or whatever, as long as you hand CTX AIO HTTP basic auth object, which is really just a tuple under the hood, a named tuple. As long as you hand that to CTX, it'll end up creating a session every time. And this solves the problem I'm trying to solve with this is when I was actually creating sessions in here, whenever the program ended, you would end up with a whole bunch of loose connections that were never used. You authenticated for every single one of your profiles, and you didn't use any of them. And I'm also facing the issue of what happens when I want to update my credentials live. Now I've got to update the connection, which means callback functions, and it was getting complicated. And it was easier just to say, this is static data. Static, nothing complicated about it. And I'm going to recreate my AIO HTTP session with every request. Cool. So that's what we're looking at there. That's our pets function. Here you can see we got a doc string. Yeah, the example functions. This should be a format string, so on. All kinds of optimizations we'll make to it. So another thing that we were looking at is this is ugly. Having these template files all in a flat directory like this. And so before moving forward, before like polishing a turd and really locking down on this method, we want to move to the cookie cutter method, which cookie cutter, here I'm looking at a cookie cutter Flask example. There's a cookie cutter, read the docs, create your own cookie cutter template. Today, what I want to look at on the stream in the next hour is how do we make a cookie cutter templating system for a pop project. And the reason I want to do this is because cookie cutter is standard in Python, standard templating. Cookie cutter, if you look at the cookie cutter Flask project, they have all of the, like, look at this. The name of this folder is cookiecutter.appname. Like, and then it's the entire directory structure that you want to look at. So this is a lot cleaner to look at rather than having all my files in a flat directory. I could have it all inside of functions that make sense. I could have the directory tree be part of the templating. And so today I want to look at kind of rewriting pop create, give it a third pass at a rewrite, and conform it to the cookie cutter format. Then we'll do that for pop create item. And then another thing I was looking at when we were auto creating exec modules, which is some based on OpenAPI 3 spec. I did that up. I was over here. And I think I talked about it on the stream on Friday a little bit. But what I'm getting from OpenAPI 3 isn't intuitive for what I need for an exec module. And talking with Derek, I'll create it. I'm just going to create a new blank file. Spec.json. This is our definition of the spec. Here, let me make it actually JSON realizable. Oh, I should have just done a quick search replace. That would have been better. Oh well. Yeah, now everyone's had plenty of time to observe this spec file. Overlooking. While I was doing all that. So this is what I want to get. This is the format I want. So when we're automatically generating exec modules, if you give me an OpenAPI 3 spec or a Swagger spec, or if you're parsing the Bodacore module to generate exec module functions, no matter how your data starts out, as long as you can get it to me in this format, then I can turn it into execution modules, tests, documentation. So we'll have project info up here, and this is where I would want things like, I don't know. I did that. Huh. Does it keep? This is maybe it's because I have let's see, yeah. Am I having valid JSON now? Because I think that might happen. Sure. 1 second. Why are we failing right here? What is failing? Oh, just not allow trailing. Okay. Now if I press enter in here. Okay, we're good. So my project info, I could have my license. I could have my project name. I can have my project author. What else could I want for a project? I don't know. This is all of my project. All of your standard project info right here. But then this is where I'm kind of borrowing from the OpenAPI spec, where they would have paths right here. And what I want is plugins. So the OpenAPI spec, what it would give me, let's look at the OpenAPI spec. Pet store. It has these paths, and it's /pets, get description, tags, pets, parameters, responses, pets. And it's kind of backwards for like everything is under /pets and then a distinguisher for it, or the method is slightly different. And it's like, this is hard for me to work with. And so I want to turn this into something that is intuitive, that I can parse every time. And if I improve the parsing from an OpenAPI spec, I'm still turning it into the same thing under the hood. So that's kind of why we wanted to make this spec for what we're expecting. So here we have the plugin path from Hub. I can put descriptions in here for that. Wow, it just really wants to. Okay. I have comments in a JSON file. Anyway, I guess I'll just talk about it right here. So this is the path from the hub. Pets.sub.sub.plugin. Yeah. Then these are any imports that are required in your file. These are my funky aliases. These are pop constructs. This is a Pythonism. This is a popism. This is a module doc string. Functions. This func name is not required. Let's see. No, this function name is required. So now you can have a dictionary of all of the functions that you want to have inside of this specific plugin right here. So give me your function name, and since we're basing this off of an OpenAPI spec, tell me your query params. Tell me if this is tell me each of the parameters that are required here. Tell me the type so that we can do our type hinting. Give me a doc string for each of the parameters. Tell me if it's required or not. And if it is required, or if it's not required, then give me a default value. And then the path params, this will have the format for the parameters inside of here will be the same for the ones. And then give me your function doc string. So we have parameter doc strings, function doc strings, plugin doc strings, or yeah, module level doc strings all around. So that's the format that I feel like I would be able to I would easily be able to turn this into modules. That's why I was trying to create it. In a JSON file, how do I get a comment? I want to write all that down. Oh, can use. Apparently, it doesn't like this. Property expected. It is. JSON doesn't support comments. Oh, there we go. Reason why. Here. Okay. Full name. I can give the plugin a full name. Okay. Yeah, so this is beautiful. This is what I'm wanting here. I guess what I'm missing is right here, my query params, path params. These are all, so for example, with what Derek's doing with uh wrapping Bodo core, I'm not sure query params, path params, and data params make sense. I'm coming at this from an open API spec perspective, where all of your params, all of your parameters are you need to distinguish them like this. But if you're calling Bodo core, then all your parameters will be none of these. Maybe I say, here's my params. And this is my Python type. And I need another type of type, my param type. Like, and this would be a query param, or this is a data param, path param, or just a regular parameter that I'm going to pass to a function. Is that the way to do this? Yeah, I think so, because then I can potentially support other types of, like if I want to have a JSON blob, because there are many arguments to AIO HTTP or to other potential function calls. So I think maybe this is the way to do it. So can we do this? This is a type hint. Um, yeah, then I give me the return type of this. We're using Python, we're assuming Python 3.6. We can ask for. Here I am modifying this format. I'm looking at the spec. Hold on. There's a little bit more that I might need to. For example, I'm getting /pets from here. I need to turn it into. I also need to know the method of my function. Okay. Okay, my method of calling this function. I'm gonna say SDK. Here's my query data path. This is where the environment variable is going to end up in the target object. Is it going to go to an AIO HTTP object, or is it going to be a parameter for the SDK? For an SDK like with AWS, that's what I'm trying to consider here. I don't know. There might be a better way to do this. But for now, this is what I'm. Yeah, I like the idea of having virtual import. You know, when in Python we have the concept of, not in Python, in Saltland and in Popland we have the concept of virtual. Like at the top of a function, I can say I accept as libs equals true, as libs equals false. This is something that we do a lot, Popland. Is having this virtual function. And so I would want to be able to, in a spec, be able to say, these are my imports, like these are part of the requirements, these are imports that are necessary, these are imports that will cause the module to fail to load, but it won't crash the program. So I'm gonna have my virtual imports and my my required imports. That's what I mean by that. And then I would want to have a constructor that does something like this. I would want to have a construct in my templating that. Funkelius, I don't know. If you have a function name, if one of the function names that you're creating clashes with the Python built in, then give me a Funkelius list. I think that's an important thing to include. Virtual name for the plugin, always been it. Yeah. Anyway, we can tweak this format a little bit more. Can't do comments in JSON, but can in YAML. It's sometimes why people decide on YAML versus JSON. It does become interesting with wrapping around Boda core versus making a request to something like AIO, HTTP, or HTTP. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is a little bit more fleshed out what I want to get from uh what I want to see for this. Yeah. This is more comprehensive of how it could auto generate exec modules and tests, doc strings. Now we're handling imports, virtual imports, func alias, virtual name. We're not handling sub aliases, but could. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I want. I'll send you this updated spec, Derek. You can tell me if there's any more improvements you'd want to make. But yeah, I think making this params instead of query param specific is better because yeah. Because not everything, like if you're hitting an SDK, you're not going to have query param. So, and if an option is, if an argument is required, let's see, the required ones would go first. If it's not required, then it would have a default, and the default value for a default option would be none. This makes sense. For example, this is not a required argument. Or this is a required argument because it doesn't have a default. If I want to say it's not required, or this is not required, then I give it a default. So this is not a required argument. This is required. This is required. So all I'm saying is this default value doesn't mean a thing if your argument is not required. So that required parameter just tells me, am I giving this thing a default or not? I need to know that. And my method, I need to know get, post, delete, patch, put. Okay. Not SDK. I'll just say none. Or this could be something a little bit more generic, because method is something that's... So if I'm calling hub.tool.petstore.session.get, and I'm passing these paths... Ooh. Where in this model am I getting my paths from, and where am I telling it? Like, I'm saying my argument parameter. I'm just having a hard time turning my path and my query parameters into something that works for an SDK and for AIO HTTP, and for having that make sense in here and be intuitive. Maybe we need something of a different plugin type. Wrappers. No, I think we can get it all into this one thing. Hmm. Because you're still kind of gonna have a path if you're doing for Bodo Core, because your path is just gonna mean something different to Bodo Core. It's gonna be something like for the pets for OpenAPI spec, it's gonna be /pets/pet ID/ something like that. And what it means, the same thing in Bodo Core land. This will be Bodo Core dot EC2 dot instance ID equals hold on, let's look at the similarities between this. So this is kind of the OpenAPI 3 method, and this is what I would expect to get out of this is what I expect the final call to look like ish for a Bodo Core thing as kind of a mock value. And so this is still a path, and this is still a path, and these are still my parameters to that thing, and I have path parameters, I have query parameters. Can I have a person be able to customize how they're using? Can we have a customizable way of using the different paths? Or maybe you're right. Maybe the easier way to do this is just to have a different plugin type. Like we have a plugin that is hitting an SDK on the end, and we have a plugin that is hitting AIO HTTP, and we just have different methods for both of them. Maybe that's the way to go. Um, To me, these look similar. Like I have my path params here, or I have my path params here. All that would be different really is how you're handling it within your all that would be different would be how you're handling it in your session plugin that is actually making the calls. And so could we pass that thing, this blob and your item AWS session plugin can turn this into this, and your AIO HTTP session plugin can turn it into this, and I hand everyone this. In this case, I don't want to say SDK. I want this to be the option of being something like a creator or SDK class, SDK subclass, or like this is what I would call, like if my EC2 object has specific parameters, this is what I would call my SDK class parameters. I'm saying this parameter in the final call, stick it in this. And if it's in the SDK subclass, then this parameter from this function ends up going in here. And if it's part of the function call, then it goes in here. And if it's part of a query, data, or path, then it ends up going inside of... this is something... Yeah, maybe separate plugins. I don't know. I think this is something else to focus on right now. This is not what we should be focusing on right now. Just thinking about this spec is something that I really want to get solid so that we can have a one very clear, obvious way to do it. Now, if query data and path, I don't know. I think I would have to generate a spec like this and actually create execution modules for it, and like have tests for having it auto generate off of what a item AWS might give me, and also auto generate exec modules based on what an Open API 3 spec would give me, and then just work from there, kind of work backwards. I think this is a good start, and let's work backwards from this. See if we can have something that's intuitive and simple to understand for both. And where I want to look at next is I want to get into cookie. Makes me think of I was watching a show with my brother yesterday called Final Space. And I can focus on Open API 3 in the meantime, and we can slowly bring in other things like what AWS will give. But Cookie Cutter makes me think of we're watching Final Space, and there's an episode where he has a cookie wife and cookie kids. So just thinking of that. And then he loses them, and he's like, cookie wife, cookie kids, no! Really funny. So with that in mind, let's make a Cookie Cutter spec. Let's see. So what we have right now is this templates folder. How can we turn the way that pop create works into Cookie Cutter templating? So let's look at Cookie Cutter. Create your own Cookie Cutter template. Let's make a Cookie Cutter a requirement of this. cookie cutter. And install that requirement, please. Please and thank you. Cookie cutter installed. All right. Let's look at this. Right now I have this write function, which is telling me all the files I want to create. I think this is all going to become, like, it's going to take a minute to understand the cookie cutter method and translate everything that I have from like raw parsing of Python strings and turning it into something that is, more standard of a template. But I think in the long run, using cookie cutter will be better. Cookie cutter is very well documented. It's standard for templating a Python project or creating a Python project from a template. Derek found this today. Let's do what's standard rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and have these templates in a flat directory that then we parse in a way. So hopefully I think this will be our last rewrite of pop create. And after this, it'll be way easy to extend it, even easier than it currently is to extend pop create, because now it'll be clear where all the arguments are coming from and where they're going, and we won't have to have any of this insane logic for replacing and for putting the docs in the right places. It'll all just be based on the directory underneath this. So I think that we have a lot to gain from cookie cutter. It'll make the pop create much more maintainable in the future, because right now if you're going to edit it and you're like, what's this R header and this R source, and it's just so all over the place what you need. So I want to look at pop C. That's kind of, how do we turn, no. Look at the core of this. How do we turn this into cookie? What do we get out of cookie cutter? Create a Python package. You need to create two nested folders. One will be at the project root, and the other one is Python package root containing the application code. Next, we want to create the compulsory init.py. We do not want to create the compulsory.py. That is not the pop way. Author e. And we wanted to get this from opt, but also from. We need to register variables that we want to use in a JSON file name with cookiecutter.json at the top level of your template. Its most basic form, it contains a number of key value pairs that refer to variable names and default values for these variables. Touch cookiecutter.json. Yeah, this kind of fits the conf.py thing. And I want to translate this to the pop way. You don't need cross-platform. Well, maybe. Cookie cutter hooks. You can have a Python or PostShell scripts that run before and after your project is generated. Create hooks at the top level. If you want others to be able to use your source code, you should add a license file. Oh, now they're just saying copy it. Straight up copy. Oh, look, and they even have a cookie cutter readme. Nice. I wonder if they handle the turning this into something that is like trimming the readme files. Cat wants to tell me that she caught her toy. She likes doing. Update the context file. Okay, run cookie cutter. But we want to run this from within the pop create. Okay, so this looks doable. This is telling us how to use cookie cutter the cookie cutter way. And we're gonna use the cookie cutters our own way. We have our own way of reading conf.piles. That's standard for pop, and so we're gonna use that. we're also going to I want to make it so that your cookie cutter project, like the pop create way, would be each of these would be their own cookie cutter templates inside of each of these folders, and I would want you to easily be able to run cookie cutter for any type of a pop create project. So that's something that's different for the way that we want to do things. And I've already gotten pushback for making a pop create item. The cookie cutter way would be to create a new project for each one of these. And so with the pushback I got for pop create, for just having pop create item in a separate repo, I'm not ready to make a separate repo for every single thing that we want a cookie cutter template for. So let's keep things as simple as we can. Especially in some of these, like CI/CD doesn't have very much. Okay, let's look at cookie cutter. Import cookie cutter. What do we have in this object? Nothing. Successful. Look at the code. Looking at documentation, I'm not used to a project having such vast documentation. So here I am looking at the code. That's main.py. Split, checkout, no input. Word directory, skip if file exists. Overrides and default. This is way better than what I was doing with those just replaces. And here I can say, here, this is a context that overrides the default and user right. Override if exists. Whoa, like this is just, wow. This is so much more powerful than kind of like the archaic tools I was using for pop create. I definitely think we should be using this. Nice. This is what I want to do. Exceptions from cookie cutter prompt. We don't want that. We don't need the repository. Maybe the remove tree. I don't know. What's actually calling? Generate files. Where does this come from? Aha! Render the templates and save them to files. Repo project template input directory. Okay. Predict for populating the templates variables. Nice. Output directory. Override if exists. This is what I want. This is the only thing I need from cookie cutter. Because this context, I can generate this from pop.conf.py. This repo dir, I can get this from a pop create templates directory, and then this is where I can put all of my directory structure for what I want to make. And then my context, yeah, I can just make this from my conf.py or from the other logic that I was using before. I think this is actually going to be a lot easier than I was imagining it would be. Nice. Generate context. I don't even need to generate context. I just need to generate files. I don't need to get the user config. I don't need to prompt for config because cookie cutter apparently will ask for input on the command line. I don't want to do that for a pop project. What's this cookie cutter replay? Is there anything that I might? I'm not getting these cookie cutter templates from a repo. I'm getting them straight from like I'm saving these templates inside of my own thing. I don't even want to worry about that. All we need is this generate files function. This is going to be super easy. It's just going to take a little bit of a hard refactoring of these templates to get rid of, let's see, where I have like R clean name. I'm going to have to turn that into a Jinja style variable, but that's okay. I can handle that. And I'll do that for all of these templates and then generate files. I'm getting really excited. pretty. This is looking pretty easy. Official cookie cutter tutorial docs for latest release. Nice, thank you. Hearing that. I'll open it in my browser on my other computer. Okay, we got 10 minutes. I've got to be done before 10 minutes. So it doesn't look like I'll get to on stream be looking at this today. It looks like the purpose of our stream was to talk about where we're going with this, with Pop Create. So it looks like we'll be doing a lot of cookie cutter stuff. It'll be nice. And it'll mean in our plugins, I can just expect whoever's writing a plugin to just create the name of their plugin, create a templates directory that has the directory structure of their cookie project. And then in my init.py, just use this generate files to get all of to get the config. And you can extend the config based on your own options that you want to have. I'm just blown away at how easy this is going to be. I was worried cookie cutter, and I'm glad that I did not dig through the documentation for this in the code, because personally for me that's easier to understand. Code is easier to understand than docs. Okay, I just wanted to look at what were we talking about. Replay module. What is this about? File dump. Could this be used for like what we were talking about in the beginning of the stream? Like, did it happen to be accidentally related? What is this cookie cutter dump? Like, what if cookie cutter is expecting something like this already, and that's what this replay is, and we can just have this fit the replay format? That would be really cool. Let's look at this real quick. What is this replay? Replayer, template name, context. What is cookie cutter replay? Let's search in the docs. Cookie cutter Python replay. Okay, here's what a replay JSON looks like. App class name, app title. Fetch this context data without being prompted. Cookie. No, it doesn't quite look like. Yeah, the replay doesn't look like something right now. All I really need is this, generate files. Let's come to our init and let's just looks like it must arrive with the template library from the projector. Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like the purpose of the replay is just yeah, it saves the parameters that were used in the prompt. And so that's not really useful for us. From cookie cutter import and no. Wait, what's the difference between generate file and generate files? Oh. What does generate context do? Is it something we might need? I don't think so at all. Yeah, because we're already handling overwrites or command line options and config file parsing. We're already handling all that inside of pop. So I don't think this is at all. Where are these? I can see cases where we might need generate file, but for the most part, I just want to use generate files. This is looking really cool. So where we'll come back on Wednesday, I actually will be out recovering because tomorrow I'm getting a LASIK, so you won't see me with glasses next time I stream. Or I might be wearing sunglasses for the next few streams because a week I'm probably going to be very sensitive to light, taking a lot of breaks in the middle of streams. So I've got a meeting in 3 minutes, so the stream will probably end a little bit early today because of that. Will be nice and short. You won't see me with glasses again. I'll try and get as far as I can with cookie cutter stuff today and before my surgery, but I don't imagine Wednesday I'll be up for very much. Looking at a computer screen all day. So on Friday we'll come back and we'll see how far I was able to get with cookie cutter stuff and with creating exec modules from the spec.json. I'll be AFK for the next 2 days, but Thursday I'll be back in business, just using a ton of eye drops and looking out the window every once in a while to relax my eyes a little bit more. Yeah. So I'm excited for all of that. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, arguments, or rebuttals. And I will see you better than ever on Friday.